There's an urgent need to address racial and socioeconomic health inequalities for people with life-threatening blood disorders, the likes of sickle cell disease. To tell us more, I'm joined now by Virginia Shambangu, clinical nurse specialist at King's College London, Owen Marks, head of rare diseases at Pfizer UK, and Cherie Brooks, carer of a patient. Good afternoon to you all.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So first of all, Virginia, tell us a bit more about sickle cell itself for those who aren't aware of the condition.
So sickle cell is a red blood cell condition. It's inherited and globally is one of the fastest growing health condition. The reason it's called sickle is because the red cell, which is normally round in shape, mutates into a half moon or sickle shape. So anyone who's like a mature farmer would understand what a sickle is. So sickle, that's why it's called sickle cell. And essentially, once the cell is mutated into that sickle shape, it becomes sticky, rigid, and doesn't carry oxygen, which we need to circulate around the body. So the effect of that is that the person who has the condition experiences severe pain, and that's the bits that they can feel. But sickle cell also impacts on organs in the body. So it will affect the heart, the brain. So we have many patients who have had strokes, even as young children and as adults. It can affect the bones, so they could end up with avascular necrosis, which is where part of the bone has died, particularly in the hips, the knees and shoulder joints. It can affect the skin, so some patients have wounds in their sort of like ankles that don't heal. They're called leg ulcers, so similar to somebody with diabetic ulcers. And the reason for that is because there's no oxygen going into the wound. A wound needs oxygen to heal. And when someone is sickling a lot in the region, there's no oxygen going into that area. Sickle cell also affects the eyes. So some patients will have retinal detachment. Essentially, they can lose their eyesight because they've sickled in the back of their eyes. So it's a very, very, very chronic, complex and debilitating condition.
Absolutely. And it affects proportions of our population based on their ethnicity.
Yes. So the majority of people in the UK with sickle cell disease are from Black and from African Caribbean backgrounds. Having said that, there are people with sickle cell disease who don't quite fit into that ethnic kind of group. So we, as part of this awareness, that we want people to be aware that you can't look at somebody and say, oh, they have sickle or they don't have sickle, because, I have met people who are blonde, blue-eyed, who have sickle cell and experience it very, very severely. So for us, it's about getting people tested so that they know their status. And if they are actually people with sickle cell disease, then they can get the treatment and support and care that they require.
And the care that is there is obviously a big part of it. And the disease itself just doesn't affect those who have it; it affects those around them too. And Cherie, as a carer, it affects you too, seeing the horrendous pain that your patient would be going through.
Absolutely. As a mother, obviously, we care for our children anyway. But, it's really important for people with sickle cell to have a really good support network and a really supportive family, because it takes both its physical toll and emotional toll. I know every time I hear my son cry or in pain, it goes right through you. It goes right through the whole family, and it affects the plans that you may have. No two patients suffer in the same way. No two patients will always have exactly the same symptoms, and you just don't know when it's going to happen. So emotionally, as parents, you need to be strong. You also need to make sure that you're a good advocate. When you present yourself at a hospital, you have to be clear on what it is you need, and what support the patient actually needs as well. So it's really, really important that you're working with the educational system to make sure that your child actually has good support at school, and you're also working with medical professionals as well to make sure that your child is actually receiving or any patient is actually receiving the appropriate care and is receiving it quickly as well.
And Owen, obviously, Pfizer UK and Pfizer themselves across the globe are renowned for being at the forefront of modern medical technology. And your name has come across not only in the coronavirus vaccines, but also in other products that we usually see and talked about regularly. And what are you able to do as a team and as a company who are behind so many great innovations?
Well, we are heavily committed to research in the area of sickle cell disease. And in fact, in rare disease and sickle cell, we've been researching for 30 years. We're invested in making sure that we can discover breakthroughs that change patients' lives. And I think the focus we have on World Sickle Cell Day is that we'd really like to highlight, bring a spotlight, if you like, onto the condition, because it's largely invisible to people who wouldn't know that somebody has a condition until they're in a crisis or in pain. And so that creates a lot of challenges in terms of people being able to share their condition with others. And we believe that if awareness is heightened, if there's much higher awareness of the impact of the condition. So the SHAPE survey that was completed in December last year found that patients on average miss 3 months of either school or work every year. So that impact for people is huge. And as you can tell, it's also a big impact on their families as well as society as a whole. So there's an urgent need for change, and that has to start with awareness.
And Virginia, with the clinical work that you do, again, you see this in a lot of people. And as we look towards World Sickle Cell Day on the 19th of June, it is about having an understanding and an appreciation, and that, as Owen has said, this is how we can start to change lives for the better alongside the treatment that they get.
Yes, absolutely. And also, we don't want 19th of June to be the only day that people are thinking about sickle cell and sickle cell people with sickle cell disease and their families. We want the awareness day to be every day. We want sickle cell to be mainstream. We want the GPs, the healthcare professionals, teachers, social services, all the agencies that any of us can come into contact with to, when they hear that the person in front of them has sickle cell, that they actually understand what that means and they treat them accordingly, as in give them the appropriate care and support that they need. So the awareness day is about removing stigma. Stigma is still there, and there's all sorts of reasons why the stigma might be there, but a lot of people say it's because of racism, it's because it's quite a marginal condition, although globally sickle cell is not marginal. Sickle cell is actually the fastest growing health condition in the world, so it's not as small, although in the UK it's just over 15,000. Worldwide sickle cell is well known. So we want to remove the stigma, we want to remove the marginalisation, and we want people's quality of life to improve as a result of not just the awareness days, but awareness raising generally every day of the year.
And Shreya, I should think you would like to see that for the patients you work with too, and it will have a positive impact.
So I don't actually work with patients. I have a son that has sickle cell, but I absolutely support what Virginia has said. World Sickle Day isn't just about, one day. Patients, we see it. As a mother, I see it 365 days of the year. I see, even though my son is saying, he's okay, he's good to go to school, I know 10 minutes later I'll get a phone call to say he's been rushed to hospital in an ambulance because he's not well. It's very, very difficult. No two patients are the same. And what we want to see is awareness on the 19th, but we also want to create awareness amongst the community to make sure we have those conversations. We'd also like to see an increase in blood donors, particularly from Black and ethnic backgrounds, because as people with sickle cell, they have to have regular blood transfusions, regular blood exchange in order to help their condition. So it's about understanding the condition, knowing that it's not a disease that you can actually catch. It's understanding the genetics, and it's understanding how we provide that care within the community.
And Owen, where can we go for information about the work that's been done on the research from Pfizer?
Well, we would really encourage people to Google the SHAPE survey. You can also find information on the NHS website, and also an excellent report was completed by the APPG, and it's called the No One's Listening Report, and we'd really want to highlight that. I think you can hear from Virginia and from Cherie with such powerful voices. Their advocacy is so impressive. But of those 15,000 patients, they really need people to do their research and just find out more. And with this kind of improvement in awareness, we think we can really start the kind of change that we need to see.
And Virginia, there are charities who will be working with people out there as well that can really make a difference here too.
Yeah, there are lots of charities, and the good thing about our sickle community is that they are very, very independent. You've never met a more independent group, and if something isn't happening for them, they'll just go and develop it. So somebody spoke earlier about a project that she set up called Plasma of Hope, just because she wasn't getting the support in the local area where she moved to when she moved out of London. And so there are pockets of small organisations, but there's an umbrella organisation in the UK currently, which is the Sickle Cell Society, which can support any community groups that want to set up, want to support people with sickle cell conditions and their families, because sickle cell, as Sharia said, isn't just about the person with the condition, but it's the impact on the family and the wider community. So there are organisations out there, and a lot of them are online. So if you actually put in sickle cell disease, local organisations, something will always pop up somewhere. And if there isn't any, then if you contact the Sickle Cell Society, they will link you up with organisations. So we really want people to, I can't stress it enough. We want sickle cell to be mainstream. We want people to embrace it and not see it as this thing that belongs to others. It can affect any of us.
Absolutely, it affects the whole community, and it is something as a community we need to work together to support those who are suffering from this debilitating condition. Well, Virginia Shabangu, clinical nurse specialist at King's College London, Owen Marks, head of rare diseases at Pfizer UK, and Cherie Brooks, carer of her son. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.